genres of music that go with the message. So thank you. That was awesome. Good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful day, isn't it? Yes, it is. And it's so good to see all of you here. And again, to see faces that I haven't seen for a while, it just blesses my heart. I'm so happy that you're here with us. And those of you online, we're so grateful that we have this opportunity to be with you in your home, where you're probably sitting with a cup of coffee right now, kind of relaxing. How nice is that, though? So last week, we began talking about the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, which was actually written by Father Esther Bucure. But it doesn't take anything away from the power of this prayer. And I really think that he wrote this. This was like, it came out 700 years after St. Francis of Assisi was alive, but it was because of how St. Francis of Assisi lived his life. And that, was just so beautiful. And of course, how our great master teacher lived his life. And I chose this prayer, although I really feel like the prayer chose me, because of everything heavy that's been going on in our country and in our world around us over the last numerous years, with COVID, with the divisiveness, with the weather stuff going on, with some rights being taken away, because this prayer helps to bring us back to that center. It helps to bring us back to that place of peace. And I really feel like it's a roadmap for that. And don't we all want to really live more from that center of peace? We really desire that, right? I mean, it's just habit that we get outside of that, and it's just our ego. But we want to be there. So, and I love this quote. It says, "Peace, it does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of all those things and still be calm in your heart." That's where we want to be able to get to. Whatever's going on around us, we still have that place of calmness in our heart. So what takes us out of our peace? Ego. And this particular acronym for it, edging God out. So think about it. You get triggered, ego. You get offended, ego. We don't get something that we want, or it doesn't turn out the way that we want it, ego. We want to be heard so they know that we're right, ego. Edging God out. So what this prayer does is it gives us a roadmap on how to find our way back to peace, back to God, and back really to the way that our great master teacher, Jesus, showed us how we could be present in the world around us, even when kind of crazy things are happening. So quick review. Last week we talked about the importance of meditation and taking that time, and we even did a little exercise of just breathing and then triggering that space of peace, breathing again, getting calm, triggering into that space of peace. I talked to somebody this week, and she said, I touch my ring, and my ring helps me to remember to come back to that place of peace. Whatever it is that can help us get to that place of peace. And I read a thing on Facebook this week that says 5 minutes of meditation a day is better than no minutes of meditation. So don't put that pressure on yourself that you have to do 30 minutes of meditation every day. If that works for you, that's great. But 5 minutes of just opening ourselves up to really feeling into and allowing ourselves to be open to feeling the presence of God, the presence of love, and that presence that is all good. So we also talked about sowing love where there is hate. And love is going to be the overarching power that we're going to use all of our lives, because it's all about love. Emmett Fox said, and I love this, "There is no difficulty that enough love will not conquer." There is no difficulty that enough love will not conquer. And that's why we talk about love all the time. Because again, as I've said many times, you can say there's, one presence and one power, that is God. But what we know is 1 John 4:8 tells us God is love. There's one presence and one power, and that is love. Love will transform anything. And then we talked about where there is injury, pardon, and how important it is to move into that space of forgiveness. Forgiveness of ourselves, but forgiveness for other people. It's a vitally important part of our human spiritual journey. So today we're going to talk about where there is doubt, faith, and hold on a second, and where there is despair, hope. So first we're going to talk about where there is doubt, faith. Wayne Dyer, in his book, which I'm using, The Spiritual Solution, there's a spiritual solution to every problem, and the back half of his book talks about this prayer, and there were handouts today, so you'll have this prayer to take home with you. So he starts out by talking about the importance of having a direct experience of God that leads to the faith that we are talking about. And he shares that there's a difference between belief and faith, and that belief stems from other people's experiences and what other people tell us, and sometimes they're trying to get us to believe what their truth is and have the faith that they have. But he says to create a knowing of that faith in God within us, we must establish a direct experience of God for ourselves. So I want to say this because not everybody has this experience in meditation where all of a sudden it's like, some people will have that, some of us won't have that, and that's okay. I experience God when I watch nature shows or when I go out into nature and I see this divine intelligence that is in everything. And you cannot deny that there's a divine intelligence when you see how everything works together. Or when you think about that, out of one cell comes forth a human breathing life. You cannot look at a newborn baby and not think that there is some divine intelligence that active at work. And so it's not just a matter of, hey, going within and I'm going to have this all of a sudden holy experience. Maybe you will. Maybe you won't. But I know that all of us have had experiences where we know that there has been something that has guided us, something that has moved us, something that has even kind of spoken to us, maybe not audibly, but it feels like that. And that's where our faith comes from. It's a direct experience of God. So a couple of faith quotes. I love, a little faith story, the story of the villagers, and they hadn't had rain for a long time. That might be like us, don't you think? Oh, weren't you just like, hallelujah for the rain? Then today I looked at our radar, and it's like it kind of all dissipates, right? It's like all this rain, and it dissipates right before it gets to us. So they decided that they were going to gather, and they were going to do a prayer for rain. And only one little boy came with an umbrella, and that is faith. So maybe we should get our umbrellas out more often and think about rain. And I love this too. Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, who is the minister at the Agape Church in Los Angeles, said that he was doing a class on creating this energy of faith, and there was a woman in there who was having kidney issues. And this is kind of comical, but he said what he asked the whole class to do was that every time that they would go to urinate, that they would think of her, and they would see that her kidneys were functioning perfectly, and that was a way of sharing their faith with her. So there's all kinds of ways that we can move into that experience of faith. Wayne Dyer gives us some ideas on how to cultivate faith. And he says, affirm your faith, not your doubt. Faith is the complete reliance on the power and goodness of spirit and the knowing that you are always connected to this goodness. And he said, when you affirm that things might not work out, and I'm going to say that all of us have done this, and we probably still do this, that your troubles continue to mount, that your problems are unsolvable, that God has not been listening, or you are powerless in the face of so many struggles or so many big things that are happening, that's when you are affirming your doubt rather than your faith. And the thing that happens in this is when we stay in that consciousness of focusing on what's wrong and focusing on how things, you can't see how things are ever going to get better, we literally close down the avenues for the solutions to be presented to us. Here's what I'm going to tell you. The solutions are always there. The guidance is always right here. But when we stay so focused on this kind of closed down energy, we don't have an openness then for these solutions to present themselves. He says that the ability to know faith and affirm it allows it to manifest in your life. So I want to share with you the story of Kat, who is our wonderful live streaming person and does that beautiful 15-minute video, pre-video, which I really want to encourage you. I really want to encourage us to think about at 11:45 coming in and having quiet time so that we can all hear and listen to this video because it's always so powerful. So anyway, Kat recently lost her job very unexpectedly, and she's getting prepared for a pretty big surgery at the end of July. And 40 people were let go within 10 minutes, and she was one of the 40. And she talked to me, and she said, "But you know what, Sue?" She said, "I'm not going to give in to fear." She said, and I'm not quoting, but I'm kind of sharing what I heard was, I know that God has my back, and I'm just going to continue to know and trust and believe that things are going to work out as they need to work out. And she just was so sincere in this. And here's the thing about it too, is that Kat not only has that faith that things are going to work out, but ideas are coming to her and she's taking action on those ideas. That's our fifth principle. We must take action. So it's not that she's just staying in this consciousness, it's all going to work out. She's now getting these hits that are saying, hey, maybe this avenue would work, or maybe this avenue would work. So it's just ways that we can open up to that experience of faith. So I love that, and we see that all working out for you, Kat, absolutely. The second thing that he says to do is to refuse to dwell on thoughts about problems in your life, which is really connected to the first. But he says, make an effort to not keep any problem in your consciousness for more than a few moments. That's easy, isn't it? None of us dwell on problems or issues or anything like that. But he says, once that you realize that you are languishing in a problem, then shift your consciousness. And he says, then silently go to God and then turn it over to this higher spiritual energy. And the key here is what? Awareness. Awareness. Oh, I'm languishing in this problem. How do we know we're languishing in an issue or a problem? You feel lousy. Exactly. You feel it in your body. You feel it in your brain. You feel it in your heartbeat. You feel it in your stomach. And those are the moments that we've got to go, oh, wait a second. What am I focused on here? I love the get behind me. You have no power over me. And then I'm going to turn it over. Because remember, my friends, you never have to worry about the how. That's the whole point of faith, is that we don't know how something is going to work out. We give it over to this divine intelligence, and the how comes to us, or the how presents itself. But the how is not up to us. And the problem is when we get into the how, it takes us back to doubt. Because if our how doesn't show up like we thought it should, then the problem is back there. So that's why we want to surrender. We want to give it over. And then he says, and exactly what I said, that by surrendering, you create an energy field of receptivity for the solution to appear. And that is so true. You let it go, and you create the energy field for the solution to appear. And I love this, and this is a quote of his. He says, say this, I do not know how this will work out, but I am willing to let go and turn this entire thing over in the knowledge that its solution rests in the hands of the one all-knowing power. What a beautiful mini prayer to say. And again, here's the thing, is that when you get that guidance, act on it. Even if it seems crazy, act on it. Because you can trust that it's going to guide you where you want to go. And then the last thing that he says on faith is remind yourself that a placebo is a perfect example of faith at work. And he talks about, how many times have we heard or read about these tests where they've given somebody, a group of the actual medication, the group a placebo, and the placebo group does as good as the ones who got the actual medication. And he says, what is that? It's faith in the knowing that you're thinking you've been given the medication, so this medication is doing its work. It's faith in it that is actually doing the work. And he says that was it. Remind yourself that a placebo is a perfect example of work. I just said that, didn't I? I must have needed to say it again. Every week we lean into and we say there is only one presence and one power in the universe active in my life. It's God the good, omnipotent. And really what this is about, and I want to go back to this, is love. that it's love that is active in our lives. That love, again, love has got us. Love will win. In whatever is going on in the world around us, love is what will transform it. Love will win out. We just have to keep on keeping on. And we have to keep on knowing it. And we have to keep on doing what is ours to do in order for that to express. Emmett Fox said, did I already say this earlier? I think so. Yes, I put it in another place. I'm going to say it again. There's not no difficulty that enough love will not conquer. So that is where there is doubt. Let me sow faith. Let me be a faith bearer. Let me bring that to any situation in my personal life and in the lives of those around me and in our world. And then we move to where there is despair, hope. And when you think of despair, despair is really a feeling of hopelessness. And so what are some of the causes of despair? Things like homelessness, addiction, marital disharmony, ill health, bereavement, grief, stressful work, loss of a job or money. I mean, despair comes from many different things that happen in our lives. And what does human despair look like? It's despondency, it's desperation, it's discouragement, it's anguish. And I would have to believe that we have all felt a feeling of despair at some point in our lives, where we just have felt this sense. It's not depression, but it's despair. So he says that hopelessness, despair, refers to a state of mind caused by circumstances that seem too much to cope with. And, I can just share that when I went through the death of my second husband, I was in a state of despair for a while because I couldn't see how I was ever going to be okay again for a period of time. And that's why I think that all of us have probably experienced despair to some degree. So I read an article on how despair is different from depression, and it really has more to do with depression is generally going to be a chemical change in the brain. Despair, people who are in despair, they can show up and do what they need to do on a daily basis. I mean, I did that, I showed up and did what I needed to do, but that there's a sense of not feeling like you can connect with your joy. And that's what that sense of despair feels like. So, as Thoreau said, it's leading a life of quiet desperation, because for most people who are in some state of despair, they don't want to show it. Or again, they show up and they do what is theirs to do, and then they kind of go off. So it's leading a life of quiet desperation. The American Psychological Association says, in general, having hope is having an expectation that something good will happen in the future, or that something bad won't happen. So first of all, how do we deal with hopelessness in our own personal lives? Practicing positive ways of coping, including exercising, get out, do something. That increases the serotonin in your brain. So, do what you can to move your body. Explore creative outlets. I know that for most of us, we have something that we love to do, whether it's, painting or writing or reading or whatever it is. Explore those creative outlets. And then practicing gratitude, which leads to the second one, reframing hopeless thoughts and finding the positive in life. Gratitude, my friends, it's amazing how gratitude can lift us up out of a place of despair. And again, that's different than depression, because with depression, the chemical change, you may need something to help you get to the point of that. But with despair, gratitude for what is good in your life. And then the last one is leaning on a support system. Ask for help. Maybe reach out to some people around you and tell them what you're feeling. And if you need to, reach out to a professional for that. How do we deal with despair in the world around us? Because we know that there is despair in the world around us. So I want to share with you, we become the hands and the feet and the voice of God. That's how we help create hope in the world around us. And again, following Jesus' example. So Reverend Christy Love is the minister at the Connecting Grounds. And the Connecting Grounds is who we partner with for our crisis cold weather shelter. And she shared a picture on Facebook of a person, and it showed their thigh. And this person had gotten severely sunburnt. And this sunburn turned into these horrific sores on his leg. And the reason is because we don't have shelter. We have very little shelter during the daytime for our unsheltered people. And they don't have access to things like sunscreen and, just the things that are needed there. And as we all know, reaching out to our unsheltered community has become a value of ours here at Unity of Springfield. Can you imagine at this point and coming up in the next 10 days, the despair of people who don't have a place to go during the day to get out of this heat and don't have the proper things to help them? So, and at least during the cold weather shelter, there's shelters at night, but very, very little during the day, during the hot weather. So how can you help? How can you bring hope? Well, Chrissy put an Amazon wish list of items that are needed to help throughout the summer. And every day, they take these items, when it's a certain temperature, which it's every day right now, around. They know where the homeless camps are. They know where the homeless people are, so they take these products. So we want to help with that. This is our way of sharing hope with our unsheltered community. And so what we want to do is be a part of fulfilling some of these items on the wish list. So some of them are these. I asked Christy, what are your top 3 needs right now? And they're instant ice, and they're actually instant cold packs. That's what they're called, instant cold packs. That you can get these on Amazon. Cooling towels. You can get a package of 10 towels for $18 on Amazon. And if you can put Unity of Springfield as your charitable organization on that. And popsicles. And I asked her, so popsicles in a box or regular popsicles? And she said both. So what we want to do is just open up to start collecting those things. So if you would like to be a part of this, just bring them in, and we'll make sure that they get to the outreach center. Or if you want, you can go directly to the outreach center and take these things on Facebook. And here's a great way to stay involved in this. Go to the TCG Outreach Volunteers page or the TCG Outreach Center page. And on there, she keeps you up with just things that are needed. Like somebody needed bunk beds for their kids, or somebody needed help with a down payment to get into some housing. So there's always this continuous thing of needs, and we can all be a part of that. I encourage you to go to these pages and join these pages so you can be kept up. Another way that we can help bring hope, and that we do, is through our community cabinet that we have. And I shared last week that this was our community cabinet on Tuesday morning. It was bare. And I put it out on on our Unity of Springfield Connection group. If you're not on that Facebook page, it's Unity of Springfield Connection group. And by that afternoon, this was our cabinet. And here's the thing, my friends, is food insecurity is becoming a bigger and bigger thing for people with the cost of everything increasing. And so I want to encourage, please keep this in the front of your mind. When you go grocery shopping, please add extra things to your shopping cart and bring them to church with you on Sunday or during the week. I'm going to create the vision that this cabinet is going to stay filled. Because when you see people come in and they have kids, and we don't have anything in our cabinet, it's heartbreaking. So it takes all of us, and that's a way we can bring hope to the community that needs this. And they're so, so, so very grateful for it. So a couple other ways to bring hope is listen. Just listen to people when they're going through something. And don't try to fix it for them when they need you, just to listen. And when they're open, bring that encouragement. If you have some encouraging words, definitely bring that encouragement. Say something like, you'll get through this, there's a solution, this too shall pass, I believe in you. Why don't you come to Unity of Springfield with me? We have a really great church that gives uplifting and hopeful messages. It's a great way to bring that encouragement. Bring people hope with comfort, and the need for comfort is met through using the appropriate words. Always just speak uplifting words, and maybe a touch, and always ask before you touch someone or before you go in to hug them. And maybe share a story about what you went through and how it worked out. I know that after my second husband died, it helped me so much to hear people tell me their stories and how they were okay now. That gave me hope. to share our stories about how things have worked out for us. That gives other people hope. And do acts of kindness. Hold the door for someone. Buy a stranger a cup of coffee. Leave extra coins at the laundry. I know it's a little thing, but I always leave my quarter in the cart at Aldi's. And I know that when somebody comes up, it's like, oh, just for a second, there's that, that feeling of hope. Make eye contact with people and smile and nod. Let people know that, hey, we're connected. We may be different, but we're connected. And I love this quote. Too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around. And my friends, our great master teacher and great metaphysician, Jesus, he lived this. And he said, follow me. Take this good news out. Be the expression of what I am sharing with you here. And that is what we have the ability to do, is to really be that expression of the Christ, of that light in the world around us. So I'm going to end, and if you'd like to say this with me, this is actually an interpretation of the Prayer of St. Francis by a guy named Brian Herzog and me, because I changed a little bit of it. So if you'd like to share in this with me, I invite you to do so. Together, God, please let all of me be an instrument of peace in the world, so that wherever I go, if I encounter hate, allow me to be a source of love. If I am wronged by others, let me forgive those who have wronged me. Where I encounter doubt, let me inspire faith in others. Where I find sadness and despair, let me be a source of joy and hope, like a single light radiantly illuminating a dark room. I ask for the strength to console others more than I want to be consoled myself, to understand more than I desire to be understood, and to love more than I desire to be loved. For it is in giving that I receive, and in forgiving that I am forgiven. As I lean into the greater reality of who I am, I remember that we are all eternal beings here to love and to be loved. Amen. So your homework this week is to go out there and just be that bringer of faith and that bringer of hope in every experience that you have in your week this week. And next week, we'll continue to talk about this. So namaste. Namaste.